Hello, my pretties. Socialism is the fuel, the primary number one preferred fuel source of capitalism. So right off the bat, if you dig this kind of stuff, TomBerkenmeyer.com is my website, just like it's spelled here in social media, TomBerkenmeyer.com. It's mostly about natural health and financial freedom, but I touch a little bit on political philosophy as well. So right off the bat, most people don't know what socialism or capitalism is. They just throw these words around loosely as if they know, but they really don't. So, there's no such thing as a modern developed country in the world today that is either capitalist or socialist. They don't exist. So right off the bat, when someone says, oh, Bernie Sanders is trying to make the United States a socialist country with the other socialist countries of the world, just right off the bat, they don't know what they're talking about because they don't know what it means. So every country is a mixed economy. It's a mix of both. And if a country mixes them well in the right ways and in the right areas, then the economy booms for everybody, for ordinary people. Ours is booming right now, but only for a small handful of people. For most people, it's not booming at all. So here's what I mean specifically about the claim that, or I should say the objective observation that socialism fuels a thriving capitalism. So Henry Ford, he once said, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but he once said something to the effect of, the best way for me to sell more of my product, more of my cars, is for me to pay my workers enough money to be able to buy my cars. He made a lot of money. In fact, he doubled the minimum wage for his workers so that they had the disposable income to be able to buy his product and other products too, I'd imagine. So that's the key giveaway there of how socialism fuels capitalism. It's when ordinary people have disposable income, they can buy the shit that the captains of industry produce. You know, the small business and the big business owners. It's actually a win-win for everybody. So the smart and enlightened entrepreneur, business owner person is going to understand that a healthy dose of socialism is good for capitalism, and that's how the businessman is going to make a ton of money, is when his consumer base, his or her consumer base, has the disposable income to buy their products, to buy their stuff. It's as simple as that. So then the correct debate that the country should be in, and some of us are, a lot of us aren't, we're getting there, I think. The correct debate is, how do we mix the economy? Where do we check socialism against capitalism and vice versa, and in the right ways? That's a productive discussion to have, not we're capitalist or we're socialist or we want to be social, because that's not true. There's no such thing as a modern developed country that is either socialist or capitalist. They don't exist. We're all mixed. And if we do a better job at mixing our own and checking and balancing our own, one against the other, capitalism and socialism, then that's when ordinary people have disposable income, and that's when the entrepreneur can thrive the right way, where everybody wins. So right now, instead, what we have is capitalism that's going to kill itself. Like, capitalism unchecked will kill itself. Socialism unchecked will kill itself. So right now we have unchecked, or I should say incorrectly checked, capitalism and socialism in a way where billionaires, as a generality, billionaires get to socialize their losses and their expenses onto everyone else, but they get to capitalize their gains. In other words, they don't have to pay taxes on their profits, but they can make everybody else pay for their expenses and their losses. That's not fair. So we already have a ton of socialism here. When someone says this is a capitalist country, no, it's not. We're deeply socialist. It's just all the socialism, the welfare state, most of the welfare state and the socialism goes towards subsidizing the richest people in the world. That makes no sense. That's highly unethical, but that's the reality of it. Very little welfare and socialism goes to actually social welfare and subsidizing poor people. So if you're going to be mad at people draining the economy on the back of you working hard, at least 90% of your anger should be directed towards where 90% of that drain is going, and that's to the top, not to the bottom. Don't punch down, punch up. Okay, so if we do a better job at mixing and checking socialism against capitalism, I'm telling you, socialism is going to be the thing that makes capitalism thrive and creates an equal opportunity for everyone, not an equal outcome. Therefore, it will never be socialist. It's not possible. So in the 1950s and 60s, when America was great economically, we had a top marginal tax rate of over 90%. Isn't that great? People had disposable income, so they could buy stuff. Today, when consumer spending is up, loans are up, consumer debt is up, liability debt is up. So looking at increased spending habits by ordinary Americans doesn't tell the whole story. That discernment has to be made. How much of it is disposable income versus how much of it is debt? Credit card debt is up. Bank loans are up. And these are by people that have no disposable income. So obviously a lot of them default on those credit card debts and those bank loans, which means the high interest rates kick in and the banks and credit card companies makes lots of money. Those same banks and credit card companies have purchased politicians. If you're a billionaire, the best investment you can make is to buy a politician. We all know that. And so when they buy the politicians, they deregulate lending. And so they can give a loan to almost anybody. And people that have no disposable income, people with horrible debt ratios, maybe questionable intention on paying it back through credit reports, and a lot of them end up defaulting. And then the banks and the credit card companies make tons of money. It's really a bad racket. And the most bribed politician of them all is President Pinocchio. Right after he ran a whole campaign promising he would never take establishment money because he didn't want to owe them any favors. Well, just the other day, he met with a group of billionaires, took a bunch of money for his campaign committee, and they curried favor with him. Returned the favor. He does it all day long. He passed, I think, the largest socialist package, the largest welfare expansion package in American history with the 2017 tax bill. And all that socialism and welfare, most of it, 83% of it, went towards subsidizing billionaires. It takes away disposable income from ordinary people, thus taking away the fuel that really fuels capitalism. So then when the billionaires get to privatize their gains, not pay taxes on their gains, and socialize their losses and expenses, that frees up a lot of money. So what do they do with that money? Well, in somewhat recent history, within the past 40 years, the government said, you can buy back your own stock now, billion-dollar corporations. Before, they couldn't do that because it was seen as market manipulation. But, they buy the politicians to curry favor, and they return that favor by deregulation and no taxes and so on. So now companies can use their massive tax cuts, their government subsidies, their welfare, their socialism. The billionaires, the richest people in the world can use that money that you paid for, by the way, and buy back their own stock, artificially inflating the value of that stock. And now we have a thriving economy. A thriving economy with measurements like GDP and consumer spending that does not take into account the average median salary per worker, or the average disposable income per worker, or the average subsidy check that the average person gets every week from the government because they can't afford to live. GDP measurements and consumer spending measurements does not take into account these things, so it's not telling the whole story. Those are facts that are used to tell a lie about the whole story. So it's robbed people of disposable income, which is the fuel to make capitalism thrive for everybody. So the way to make capitalism thrive in an ethical way is to check it with socialism and create an economy, an environment that gives people more disposable, or any disposable. Half of the country has zero disposable income. So give people disposable income and they spend it, and it thrives for everybody. And the enlightened entrepreneur, business person, knows this and is in favor of this. The greedy, lazy son of a bitch of a business owner is in favor of paying no taxes and socializing their losses, and then using all that government welfare that they get to buy back their own stock, artificially increasing its value. So I wish that fragmentation of the billionaire class, I wish they would get off their lazy asses, pull themselves up by their own bootstraps like they're always espousing you do, get off the government teat, and start living in the same system that the rest of the country has to live in. And that is, going to make money do well, pay your fair share of taxes, and If you're going to create expense accounts or have a loss, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps. Learn the lesson and do better next time, just like the rest of us. It's pretty fair. And thankfully, most of the rest of the country agrees with those simple political philosophies too. Most of the country just has no idea what labels mean. But behind the labels, most people actually have the right idea, which is why I believe we're going to have a political revolution here soon. And at the time of this video, it's 411, Information Day. Wow, April 11th, 2019, depending on when you see this. And Bernie Sanders, 2020. He's the guy that is going to check capitalism with the right socialism in the right areas and the right ways, because he's untethered from conflicts of interest with corporate PACs and lobbyists, because he doesn't take any of their money. And that is why. Okay? Bernie 2020. And that's all I've got for you. So there you have it. Feel free to share this. Comment below if you wish. I'm always happy whenever I talk, whenever I touch on politics, I've always got to add the disclaimer. I'm very happy to have healthy disagreements as long as they're rooted in reality. But when it comes to politics, some people develop opinions that are from an alternate universe of reality, and I lost my appetite to debate with them a long time ago. And to be forthright with you, when somebody is either lying or they develop a point of view from a false reality, it's an inferior opinion. It's not equal to people's opinions that are based in reality. So not everybody's opinions are equal. They're equal if they're different, but based in reality. And I'm very clear about that. And I only have to add that disclaimer when I bring up anything political. It's really odd that some people just lose their minds and their objectivity when it comes to politics, which is unfortunate, because politics is how we solve problems, like it or not. I think it's interesting myself. All right, take care, everybody. I'll come back and look at the comments later. And remember, the number one primary fuel of a thriving capitalist society is socialism in the right way, so that people have disposable income to buy stuff.